What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about a ghost story. This one is on Creepypasta. It's one of the newer ones, and it's fairly creepy. So, uh, listen in, grab a bag of popcorn, relax, listen to this. Be careful though. You might want to shut your door because you'd never know who's going to be sitting right outside that room. I was in my room getting some work done when I had gotten a bit hungry and planned to walk to the kitchen to get some leftovers, Chinese food. My kitten sits next to me in the living room. As soon as I stepped into the dark hallway, I noticed the television was on. I know I never stopped to watch anything on it, so this was an immediate red flag. Thinking that maybe it was updating, or maybe Alexa had switched it on by mistake. I walked over to turn it off, but my heart dropped when I saw a woman in an oily black hair sitting on my couch watching it. For a moment, I was confused because I knew there was no one here when I walked in. And I knew all the doors and windows were locked. From the time I came home, I hadn't heard anyone break in, so how the hell could a person be sitting there? After the confusion passed, I wanted to walk forward and ask what the hell is she doing in my house? But something screamed that would be my grave mistake. If anyone has ever experienced sleep paralysis, that's what the feeling was like. I told my body to move, but the primal part of my brain refused violently. I slowly creeped back inside my room and just waited in silence. At this point, I know you're already screaming at me to call the cops and to trust me. I wanted to. Nothing at that moment would have made me feel better than to have one or two armed police officers there to deal with her, so that I didn't have to. But if I'm being honest, I didn't want her to hear me talking. If she had walked into my room, I'd be trapped, and at that moment, I felt like that would be a nightmare. After waiting for half an hour in silence, I mustered up enough courage to at least observe and see what she was up to. Forcing myself up, I cracked the door open just enough to get a clear view of the hallway and to look at where she was sitting. If I didn't know any better, I'd have thought she was legitimately just stumbled into the wrong house and was relaxing like any normal person. But something was off. It almost looked as if she was slumped forward on the couch. Part of me wanted to believe she was sleeping, but what I saw next shattered all hope of that. She reached a distinguishedly long arm towards the door and unlocked it from her seat position with ease. I haven't measured yet, but eyeballing the distance from my couch to the door, it had to be at least 8 or 9 feet away, on the low end. She slowly stood up and made a clumsy effort to walk towards it. Her body was horrifying. She was tall, uncomfortably so. If I had to guess, I'd say she was maybe 9 feet with arms that touched the ground and dragged behind her. Her hands each supported roughly 11 fingers that had to be around a foot in length. From what I remember, she was completely naked with sagging skin that hung loosely off her extremely thin body. She was also paler than I thought possible. Her skin appeared almost gray, and if I didn't know any better, I think her skin belonged to that of someone recently deceased. She didn't move gracefully. She dragged her massive body towards the door and raised her long arm towards the doorknob to pull it open. It almost looked like she had to break her own bones to complete the movement. But as she pulled the doorknob open and moved her big leg outside, she stopped. My blood ran cold as she slowly turned her head towards me, and I caught the glimpse of her face. I wanted to scream when I didn't see any eyes, just a puffy exterior with sagging eye holes and a mouth with long rubbery lips that dropped past her shoulders, and a permanent look of anger. I didn't know she saw me, or if she even had the capacity to. All I remember was her turning her head back outside and leaving my home. She shut the door behind her, and I was left in silence with my heart pumping faster than it ever did. I rushed outside with my phone to see if I could catch her on video, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd just closed the door and had gone to sleep, or gotten drunk and tired, passed the whole thing off, and it was a fucking nightmare. But what I was, I don't know if it was real. I looked outside in the cold dark, and I saw her hanging off the side of a building like a fucking spider. The window of a person above me was open, and she was fishing inside. And after a few seconds of searching, she pulled out their son. Her hand was completely wrapped around the head, and I couldn't tell if they were alive or dead by the time she slipped off into the darkness with a young boy. I had caught it on video. I must have watched that video 100 times before deleting it. I mean, what was I supposed to do with it? Do you think the police would believe it's a real piece of evidence? Or even that they did? What the hell could they do? As a parent, are you better off thinking that your kid ran away, or knowing that it was taken by an entity that we can't even begin to comprehend? At least, with the former, you have hoped that maybe you'd see them again. I just couldn't bring myself to being such a crazy notion to grieving family. Or worse, having them believe me and go looking for something that no one should ever try to find. I knew as long as I kept it, I'd be tempted to watch it. And every time I watched it, I'd be driven further into madness.